Forget everything you need to know. In 20 minutes, you'll install Claude Code and build a system that actually does something useful. Here's what we're making. An AI agent that writes video scripts, the same one I use for this channel. Watch this. I type in long form. You see the short key pop up. I hit tab. I type in my topic. It could be Claude Code. It could be NA10. Doesn't matter. I press enter, and here's what that looks like. You get a summary and you get a script, for example. This is the actual system that I use to generate short form video and long form video. And I built the whole thing in Claude Code, no coding background needed. You're going to have to go to the Claude Code documentation. You're going to copy this command. You're going to open a terminal, paste it. You're going to press enter, and you're going to wait for that to be done. Once you get the verification that it worked, to verify it worked, you're going to have to type in Claude. And if it installed properly, you'll get something like this, and there you go. You're good to go. Now, if you install it like this, if you're like most people, you're not going to want to work on the terminal. You're going to want something simple. So I recommend you install it VS Code, which is a separate application. I cover this in a separate video, but point is, I'm not going to dive too deep. Just go to Google or Perplexity, type in VS Code, and then download this. Once you download it, you'll get something that's similar to this icon here. And then, boom, installation is done, and you'll have a visual editor like this, which makes it easier to access files. There are some people who live by just working on the terminal. I'm not one of those people, and odds are you're not going to be one of those people either, unless you're really technical and you love just typing commands. Now that installation is done, here's the part that confuses some people, is authentication. So the first time you run Claude, it's going to ask you to authenticate. If you already have Claude and you pay for a subscription, it'll auto sync. It should auto sync. It will give you the option to enter your login info, and it'll basically use your $20 subscription if you have that, or the $100, and that's pretty much it. I would not recommend using API, which is option 2, because it is way more expensive and it can easily burn a lot more money than you need to. So I recommend you stick with the monthly subscription. And personally, I use the 100. Currently, I'm in the 200, so I kind of flop back and forth depending on my usage. But most of the time, I'm in the $100 plan. That's the sweet spot for me. Once you authenticate, you do that once, and you're good to go. Every 5 hours, you get an allowance. So you got to make sure that you work on those 5 hours as much as you can. You don't need to work 5 hours straight, but just make sure you understand you're working in 5-hour windows and you want to maximize that time. All right, so once you get authenticated, now becomes the fun part. Let's build something actually real. So I give you a little hint in the beginning, but we're going to build something similar, a slimmer version of that. We're going to hopefully build it within 10 minutes. So the first step is we're going to go to the terminal, and what we're going to build is a script agent similar to this one, but less complex. What this does is it analyzes competitors' transcripts and then understands my target keyword and then generates the script. So it's a multi-step process. Took me a while to build. I recommend keeping it simple. I actually have a skill, which is different than agents, but in this case, we're going to build an agent. I will create a video on how to create skills, which sounds complicated, but it's not. All you would have to do is teach Claude Code how to build a skill, and then pretty much you don't have to do that again. All right, so step 1 is we're going to define the requirements for our agent, and we're going to work with Claude Code. We're going to switch to plan mode, and we're going to do Shift Tab a few times until you get to plan mode. And now we're going to go and run a Claude Code. Now, for this one, I recommend you work with Opus, but if you're in the $20 plan, just stick with Sonnet. You should be able to be decent with that. I'm going to use my short key, and this is using Voice Inc. Hey, Claude, I need to build a simple YouTube script agent. Let's call this agent Script Test. It should be very straightforward. I want it to help me generate short video scripts for short form videos that are 30 to 60 seconds long. The script should read naturally, and it should have a non-generic call to action. It shouldn't use any terms or language that's very complex, just very beginner friendly, very engaging. It should also have a strong hook. So think ultra hard about this process and let me know the requirements needed for this. Additionally, please use your agent builder skill to build this agent. The skill, which is something that you could build, let's say you do something repeatedly over and over again, right? Then that's an opportunity to use a skill because it should auto invoke it, but sometimes it doesn't. But Claude Code would have or should have invoked these agent builder skill, which is just a set of instructions saying, hey, this is how you build a agent, right? Follow this format, this syntax, these rules. And that's pretty much what it's telling to do. Because I would go to the Claude documentation website over and over again and get inconsistent results. So Here's asking me a question, just topic idea. That says I'm new. And it's asking me to use my voice profile. It may not ask you that if you're just installing Claude Code for the first time, but a voice profile is just something that I created so it can help me write in my voice, or in this case, write a script in my voice. And that's something that I would recommend to do as well. You can just ask Claude to help you do it. Saying, hey Claude, I need to build a voice profile, markdown file or JSON file or reference file, and then just ask it to give you a few questions to help you understand your voice, and then it'll create it for you, drop it somewhere, and that's pretty much it. And so here's creating the agent, or actually it's creating the plan. And so I'm going to review it high level. In this case, it's suggesting to create a simple YouTube short script agent. It's going to call it script test like I asked it to, and it's asking for the input format. It's just raw idea. This is why it asked me the questions. And so I'm liking what I'm seeing. Let's just create it. Now I have bypass permissions. I would not recommend you have that if you're just installing Claude for the first time, Claude Code. It's a little scary because it can do a lot of things and you may not be unaware of it. But personally, I just find this is more productive for me. But I only did this after a few weeks of using Claude Code. So if you do it on your own risk, but you would have to, there's a command, bypass dangerously permissions. I forget. And you can even ask Claude to look it up for you. But in this case, it's running in the background. While that's running, you know what? Let me actually test it. I'm going to open a new terminal, type in Claude, and this is a good practice so you can see how you can run multiple windows. I would drag it in here. Hey Claude, can you look up the command to run on bypass permissions? Just give me the command. Do not make any changes. And I'm going to check the status. In this case, it looks as done. So generating the agent here is called script test, and it's right here. And you can see it has the role, context, everything. So it's pretty lengthy, and you could probably create this yourself, but I would never create something as good as this. All right, so let's look at the script. Let's test it out. Help me test the script test agent. Let's write a topic on NA10 automation, on how to start the topic or how to start building for the first time. And so my tips are to do not give up after the first time, to watch a tutorial. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 would be to start slow and build simple workflows. Step 3 or tip 3 would be to think about your use cases, because automation doesn't matter if you're automating for the sake of it. But in this case, Claude Code saw the issue and they said, okay, I'm going to read the agent's instructions. I'm going to take over and I'm going to do it for that agent. But just know that when you create your agent for the first time, close your terminal, open a new one, and type in Claude like I showed you earlier. And so here's the hook. Most people quit NA10 after one failed workflow. Here's where I actually get started. This is a starting point. So this beats having to go to ChatGPT or even in Claude and every single time say, hey, help me generate a script, or help me, even if you have Claude projects or custom GPTs, I just think this is way better. The quality is just better. Because if you wanted to, you could do something like I did and have multiple agents running your single workflow. Just this is enough to get the ball rolling. So something I would do and I would recommend you do is say, hey Claude, can you create a slash command for this agent? Call it script test. And so what the slash command does is, first of all, it gets stored in this command folder, but all it does is in the beginning, if you saw when I hit slash, it would call the script test agents. You can see there's a few here already. I didn't tell Claude to pull this up, but it did it anyways. It tried to pull the skill for building a skill, which is ironic, but I have a skill builder skill, which is basically how to build skills properly. And so it was using that skill, and I didn't even tell it to use it. And so it built it, and it added it right here, script test, and you can see it's right here, script test. So I would have hit tab, and there you go. And then you just continue how we started earlier. You can just start talking about your topic, and then or typing it, and then you're set. You just press enter, and basically that system will just run. Now here's the cool part. We just had one agent. So imagine you had multiple steps to generate your workflow, right? Or to generate your script. Let's say you want to do research beforehand. Maybe you wanted to generate a hook. Maybe you want to generate multiple and choose the best one. This is where you get creative, and whatever your personal workflow is, you can just convert it into a system in Claude Code. So I have many systems that are like multiple agents, and they run autonomously, sometimes in parallel, meaning at the same time. And so that's just pretty much the gist of just building your first agent, building a slash command for it, running it, and then how you would test it. So if I was running this for the first time, I'll look at that output and be like, okay, the script that it generated, I would judge if it was good, and I'll keep tweaking until I get it to where I want it to be. All right, at this point, you should feel accomplished. If you were following along, whether or not you were literally following along or you were just listening, because this is what it takes to build an AI agent. So you just build your first Claude Code agent. Let me show you the 3 tricks that took me weeks to figure out. When you first start, you're going to type it in init, and what that's going to do in your Claude Code session is going to create something called Claude MD. And this one just contains a lot of the stuff, basically the rules that Claude Code should follow. Like maybe you have a preference when you're researching which tool you want to use, stuff like that. Claude Code should be auto-updating as well. And so the cool part is that every single project you use will get its own separate Claude MD file. So let's say you're working on a website, that will get its own Claude MD file. Different set of instructions, different code. This is more complex, but this is what Claude Code can do. It's just your imagination. One other tip is you're going to run into an issue is context window. Claude gives you around 200,000 tokens within a context window. It seems like a lot, but trust me, you just do one search and it could eat up like half of that in one session. And you got to be very careful with bloating your code base. So just try to keep it organized. A hack is just use a compact that I'm testing right now, is that when you run an agent, so this is the main agent, Claude Code. When you ask it to do stuff, it's doing the stuff in here. So imagine you have like your own like drawing board. Claude is going to use this window to draw all its work. It's going to do everything there. And that's going to eat up the tokens faster unless you tell Claude Code to use agents to do the work for it. All right, so I was having some issues and I want to show you now. I asked to do some research on just a random topic, in this case, NA10 workflows. It literally loaded up the skill research router, which is what my hypothesis was. Basically, what this skill does is the whole point of a skill is that it gets auto-invoked. And so when I ask it to do research, Claude Code will auto-invoke this router, which pushes it to an agent. And the reason it does that is because an agent gets its own context window. So imagine cloning a Claude Code within a Claude Code. You have 200 tokens, or let's say 150,000 per context window, right? This agent used the 98,000, and that would have ate half your context window, roughly speaking. But in this case, we didn't. That's just something to consider. If you want to build something similar, just try to build a skill that routes it to an agent. So here I want to show you the final output. I restarted it, and the issue was within my Claude MD file, which is what I mentioned earlier. Think of it like a rule book for Claude Code. You don't want to keep it bloated with too many instructions because it would hallucinate and it would just ignore most of the instructions because it's too much to do. But if you keep it compact, in this case mine was compact, only like 30 lines, which is very minimal. I just ask it to find the root cause, and then Claude Code basically recommended to update that MD file, that it auto prioritizes skills. So basically it's like saying check for skills before you do anything, right? That's pretty much it. I mean, the only other trick I recommend is if you ever do something that you don't want to do, just ask Claude Code to undo it. And another tip that I would recommend, and believe it or not, when I first installed Claude Code, I didn't know any better. I just ran it. I didn't know anything about GitHub. And so what I would recommend is a really important tip, probably the most important. Hook up Claude Code with your GitHub repo. If you don't know what GitHub is, it's just like a place online where you can store your files. You can make them private, but store them online. So think of it as a middle layer to back up all this stuff here, all the changes. When you make a lot of changes, just say, hey, Claude, back this up to my repo on GitHub, and then it'll back it up for you. I have a /commit command, so you can create something similar like that, so you don't have to literally say the same things over and over again. But that's pretty much it. So if you ever make something unintentional changes, which has happened to me a lot, what you want to do is say, hey, Claude, revert to the previous version, and you're good. So it's just a good way to just back up your information. Keep that sanity check that if you break something, you can go back to a working version. Right, so I just want to recap because this was a lot. You install Claude Code. You build your first automation with an AI agent that generates YouTube scripts for you. Is it perfect? No, but it's a starting point. You can refine it from there. You should feel accomplished, and I think if you can do this, you can probably from there you can build more agents, you can build more commands, you can start building workflows that just help you be more productive. So I hope this video was helpful, and I do want to mention that I put together 15 AI prompts that I actually use to run my content operation. The link's in my bio, and pretty much if this is the type of stuff you like, consider subscribing. I'm documenting everything I build, not just with Claude Code, but with NA10 and pretty much all the systems that I use with AI. So I'll catch you on the next one.